Sarah Martinez clutched her worn mop handle as she watched her coworker Marcus collapse against the supply closet wall, tears streaming down his weathered face. While 12 other janitors walked past, pretending not to see, Sarah made a choice. That would change everything. She had no idea the broken man she was about to comfort owned the entire building they cleaned. Before we continue, if you enjoy incredible true stories of kindness, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue. It was 2:47 a.m. at Meridian Corporate Tower, and Sarah's feet ached from another 14-hour shift. The 42-year-old single mother had been working as a night janitor for 3 years, ever since her husband left her with their 8-year-old daughter Emma and a mountain of debt. Every night, she moved through the gleaming corridors like a ghost, invisible to the executives who would arrive in a few hours to occupy these same spaces. Sarah had learned to find Marcus Williams in the most unexpected places during their shifts together. Sometimes he'd be methodically cleaning windows on the 15th floor, other times reorganizing supply closets that were already immaculate. Marcus was different from the other janitors. While they rushed through their tasks, eager to finish and go home, Marcus seemed to linger, studying every corner of the building with an intensity that puzzled Sarah. Tonight, something was desperately wrong. Sarah had found Marcus hunched over in the supply closet, his broad shoulders shaking with silent sobs. His usually neat uniform was wrinkled, and his hands trembled as he gripped his knees. The other janitors had seen him too. Janet from the 3rd floor had actually stopped, looked directly at Marcus, then quickly turned away. Tony from maintenance had muttered something about not getting involved and hurried past with his cart. But Sarah couldn't walk away. She'd been that broken person before, sitting alone in her car after another rejection letter, wondering how she'd pay rent or buy Emma's school supplies. She knew what it felt like to be invisible, to suffer in silence while the world moved on around you. "Marcus?" Sarah's voice was gentle as she approached. "What's wrong?" Marcus looked up with red-rimmed eyes, clearly embarrassed to be caught in such a vulnerable state. At 55, he had the weathered hands of someone who'd worked hard his entire life. But there was something else in his demeanor that Sarah had always noticed, a quiet dignity, an intelligence that seemed out of place pushing a janitor's cart. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean for anyone to see me like this." Marcus wiped his face with the back of his hand. "I just got some difficult news today." Sarah set down her supplies and sat beside him on the floor, not caring about getting her uniform dirty. "Sometimes talking helps. I'm a good listener." Marcus studied her face, seeing genuine concern rather than mere curiosity. In 3 years of working together, Sarah had always treated him with respect and kindness, sharing her lunch when he forgot his, covering for him when he needed to step away from mysterious phone calls that seemed to cause him great stress. "My son," Marcus began slowly. "He's been battling leukemia for 2 years. Today, the doctor said the treatments aren't working anymore. They're recommending experimental therapy that costs more money than I could make in 10 lifetimes. Sarah's heart clenched. She thought of Emma, healthy and vibrant, asleep in their small apartment. She couldn't imagine the agony of watching your child fight for their life while feeling powerless to help. "How old is he?" Sarah asked softly. 23. Just graduated from college before he got sick. He wanted to change the world, you know? Studied environmental engineering, had all these dreams about cleaning up pollution, making things better. Marcus's voice broke. "And here I am, just cleaning buildings, unable to give him the one thing he needs most." Sarah reached out and touched Marcus's arm. "You're not just anything. You're a father who loves his son. That matters more than you know." They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes. Sarah noticed how Marcus's eyes traveled across the supply closet, taking in every detail as if memorizing it. She'd seen him do this before, studying the building with an almost proprietary interest that she'd attributed to professional pride. "Can I ask you something, Marcus?" Sarah said. "You've been doing this job for 3 years, same as me, but sometimes I get the feeling you know this building better than any of us, like you've been here longer than you're letting on." Marcus tensed slightly. "What makes you say that?" "Little things. You know which elevators make noise, which floors have the best cell phone reception, where the building's weak spots are. The security guards all know you by name, not just your badge number. And sometimes, when you think no one's looking, you check things that aren't part of our cleaning duties, like testing door locks or examining the fire safety equipment." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "What if I told you that sometimes people end up in places they never expected to be? That life has a way of humbling you in ways you never saw coming?" Before Sarah could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Both janitors quickly stood as Mr. Harrison, the night security supervisor, appeared in the doorway. Harrison was known for his strict adherence to rules and his general disdain for the cleaning staff. "What's going on here?" Harrison's tone was suspicious. You two are supposed to be working, not having therapy sessions in the supply closet. I was just helping Marcus with some supplies, Sarah said quickly. We're getting back to work now. Harrison's eyes narrowed as he looked at Marcus's tear-stained face. Williams, you look like hell. If you can't do your job, maybe you should find another one. We can't have janitors breaking down on company time. Sarah felt anger flare in her chest. He's having a personal emergency. Show some compassion. Compassion? Harrison laughed harshly. Lady, this is a business, not a counseling center. You clean, you get paid, you go home. Keep your personal problems to yourself. Marcus stood straighter, and for a moment, Sarah saw something flash in his eyes. Not hurt, but authority. It was gone so quickly she wondered if she'd imagined it. We understand, Mr. Harrison, Marcus said calmly. It won't happen again. After Harrison left, Sarah turned to Marcus. What a heartless jerk. I'm sorry you had to deal with that on top of everything else. Marcus smiled sadly. You stood up for me. Not many people would do that, especially not to their supervisor. Harrison's not my supervisor. He's just a bully with a badge. Besides, you do the same for me. As they returned to their work, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was much more to Marcus Williams than met the eye. She'd noticed how other janitors seemed to defer to him despite his quiet demeanor, how maintenance workers sought his opinion on building issues, how even some of the day shift executives nodded respectfully when they occasionally crossed paths during shift changes. Over the following weeks, Sarah made it her mission to check on Marcus regularly. She brought him coffee, shared stories about Emma to distract him from his worries, and listened when he needed to talk about his son, David's declining condition. Marcus, in return, began opening up about his past in careful, measured doses. He told her about growing up poor in Chicago, working multiple jobs to put himself through night school, slowly building a small construction company from nothing. He spoke about his late wife, Maria, who had died in a car accident 5 years earlier, leaving him to care for David alone. What he never mentioned was how his small construction company had grown into Williams Development Corporation, one of the largest commercial real estate firms in the state. Sarah learned that Marcus had sold everything, his house, his cars, his investments, to pay for David's initial treatments. She assumed he'd lost his construction business in the process, which explained why he was working as a janitor. She couldn't have imagined that Marcus had actually transferred ownership of his company to a trust, maintaining control while legally protecting his assets from potential creditors as David's medical bills mounted. 3 weeks after their conversation, in the supply closet, Sarah's own crisis arrived. She was in the middle of mopping the executive floor when her phone rang. Emma's school nurse was calling. Her daughter had fallen during recess and needed to go to the emergency room immediately. Sarah's hands shook as she hung up. She had no car. It had broken down the week before, and she couldn't afford repairs. The buses had stopped running for the night, and taxi fare to the hospital would cost more than her daily wages. She was standing in the lobby, frantically trying to figure out how to get to her daughter when Marcus appeared with his cleaning cart. Sarah, what's wrong? Through tears, she explained the situation. Without hesitation, Marcus abandoned his cart and headed for the exit. Come on, I'll drive you. You have a car? But you always take the bus to work. I have a car, Marcus said simply, leading her to the parking garage. Sarah expected an old sedan or pickup truck. Instead, Marcus led her to a pristine black Mercedes S-Class. She stopped walking. Marcus, whose car is this? He turned to face her, and in that moment, Sarah saw the truth written across his features. The careful way he'd always spoken, the deference of other employees, his intimate knowledge of the building. It all suddenly made sense. It's mine, Sarah. And there's something I need to tell you. The drive to the hospital passed in a blur of revelations. Marcus explained everything as he navigated through the city traffic with practiced ease. His real name was Marcus Williams, and he owned not just the building they cleaned, but 17 others throughout the state. Williams Development Corporation was his life's work, built from nothing over 25 years. When David was diagnosed with leukemia, Marcus had made the decision to step back from his executive role, placing the company in the hands of trusted managers while he focused on his son's care. But stepping back wasn't enough. He needed to understand his business from every angle to see how his employees really worked when they thought no one was watching. I started working as a janitor to learn about my own company from the ground up, Marcus explained as they pulled into the hospital parking lot. I wanted to see which managers treated their teams with respect, which security guards actually did their jobs, how the night staff operated when they thought they were invisible. Sarah stared at him in shock. You've been studying us? At this first, yes, but it became something more. I learned that the people who keep my buildings running aren't the executives in corner offices. It's people like you, Sarah. People who take pride in their work even when no one's watching, who show kindness to strangers, who have integrity even when it costs them something. They rushed into the emergency room together, where Sarah learned that Emma had broken her wrist but would be fine. As the doctor set the cast and Emma dozed under mild sedation, Marcus sat beside Sarah in the uncomfortable hospital chairs. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Sarah asked quietly. Marcus was silent for a long moment. "When you're wealthy, it's hard to know if people are being kind because they genuinely care or because they want something from you. These past 3 years, working alongside you, I've seen who you really are. Your compassion tonight, when you found me crying, that wasn't about money or status. That was just human decency. But all those times I complained about building management, about corporate policies." Sarah felt mortified. Marcus smiled. "Most of your complaints were valid. I've made a lot of changes based on conversations we've had. The new break room on the 3rd floor, that was your idea. The improved health insurance for night staff. You mentioned how expensive Emma's dental work was." Sarah looked at him with new eyes. "You listened." "I always listen to you, Sarah. You see things clearly, speak honestly. Those are rare qualities." Over the following days, as Emma recovered at home, Sarah struggled with the revelation about Marcus's true identity. Part of her felt betrayed, manipulated, but the larger part remembered all the small kindnesses Marcus had shown her, bringing her coffee when she was exhausted, covering her duties when Emma was sick, simply treating her with respect and dignity when others looked through her as if she didn't exist. When she returned to work a week later, she found Marcus in his usual spot, methodically cleaning the windows on the executive floor. But now she noticed things differently. How the morning executives nodded respectfully when they saw him, how the building maintenance director consulted with him about repairs, how the security guards addressed him as Mr. Williams when they thought other janitors weren't listening. "So what happens now?" Sarah asked during their break. "Do you go back to your corner office? Stop pretending to be one of us?" Marcus set down his coffee and looked at her seriously. "I'm not pretending, Sarah. This job, working alongside people like you, it's taught me more about leadership than my MBA ever did. I've learned that the most important people in any organization are often the ones who are paid the least and respected the least." He paused, studying her face. "I have a proposition for you, but I need you to hear me out completely before you respond." Sarah's heart raced. "Okay. David's experimental treatment is working. The doctors are cautiously optimistic, but these past months have shown me that I need to restructure how my company operates. I want to promote people based on character and work ethic, not just education and connections." Marcus pulled out a folder from his locker. "I'm offering you a position as assistant facilities manager for all Williams development properties. It would mean coordinating with cleaning crews, maintenance teams, and security staff across 17 buildings. The salary is $68,000 a year, plus full health benefits and a college fund for Emma." Sarah stared at the folder, unable to process what she was hearing. "Marcus, I don't have any management experience. I never even finished college. You have something better. You understand what it means to work hard, to be treated unfairly, to care about doing things right even when no one's watching. I've seen you coordinate our night crew when the supervisor was absent. I've watched you solve problems that stumped people with fancy degrees." Sarah's hands trembled as she opened the folder. The offer was real, printed on official company. Letterhead, signed by Marcus Williams, CEO. "But why me? You could hire someone with credentials, experience." "Yes. Because 3 weeks ago, when you found me crying in a supply closet, you didn't see a business opportunity or a networking contact. You saw a human being who needed kindness. You sat with me on a dirty floor and listened to my problems, even though you had your own struggles to worry about." Marcus leaned forward. "That night, 12 other people walked past me. 12 people who could have shown basic human compassion and chose not to, but you stopped. You cared. That tells me everything I need to know about the kind of person you are." Sarah thought about Emma, about the years of struggle, about the security this job would provide. But she also thought about the other janitors, her friends who worked just as hard as she did. What about the others? Janet, Carlos, the rest of the night crew? Everyone who's been doing their job well will see improvements, better pay, benefits, opportunities for advancement. But this particular position requires someone I trust completely, someone who's proven they'll do the right thing even when it's difficult. That night, Sarah went home to Emma and tried to explain the incredible turn their lives had taken. Her 8-year-old daughter listened with wide eyes as Sarah described how the quiet janitor they'd sometimes seen at school events was actually the owner of the building where Mommy worked. "So we won't be poor anymore?" Emma asked with the directness of childhood. "We won't struggle the same way, sweetheart. But more importantly, Mommy will have a job where she can help other people who are struggling." Sarah accepted the position, but with conditions. She insisted on a probationary period to prove herself, refused Marcus's offer to pay Emma's private school tuition, and asked that her promotion be based on merit rather than their friendship. Marcus agreed, respecting her integrity even more. 6 months. Later, Sarah Martinez walked through the halls of Meridian Corporate Tower with a different perspective. She now coordinated the work of over 300 employees across Marcus's properties, implementing policies that ensured fair treatment, competitive wages, and respect for all workers regardless of their position. Marcus had returned to his executive role, but he continued working one night shift per week, maintaining his connection to the operational side of his business. He called it staying grounded, but Sarah knew it was more than that. It was remembering that every person in his buildings mattered. David Williams had gone into remission, returning to finish his environmental engineering degree with a new perspective on life and a father who understood the value of every single day. He often visited the buildings, learning the business from the ground up just as his father had, treating every employee with the respect Marcus had learned to show. Harrison, the night security supervisor, who had been so cruel to Marcus during his breakdown, was quietly transferred to a different position after several employees filed complaints about his treatment of staff. His replacement was Janet, the former third-floor janitor who had proven herself to be both competent and compassionate. One evening, as Sarah finished reviewing shift schedules in her new office, she found Marcus standing by the window looking out at the city lights. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Giving up your anonymity? Going back to being the boss?" Marcus smiled. "Do you regret accepting the promotion? Leaving the simplicity of just cleaning floors?" Sarah considered the question. Her new role was challenging, sometimes frustrating. She dealt with budget constraints, personnel conflicts, and the endless complexity of managing large-scale operations. But she also had the power to improve working conditions, to promote deserving employees, to ensure that people like her former self were treated with dignity. "No," she said finally, "I don't regret it. This is where I can make the biggest difference." That's exactly how I feel. These 3 years taught me that real leadership isn't about sitting in a corner office making decisions about people you've never met. It's about understanding every level of your organization, respecting every person who contributes to its success. Marcus turned from the window. "You know what the most important lesson was? The night you found me crying, you didn't know I could change your life. You helped me simply because it was the right thing to do. That's the kind of character I want throughout my company." Sarah nodded, remembering that night in the supply closet when everything changed. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest transformations. As they walked through the building together, Sarah reflected on how dramatically both their lives had changed. Marcus had rediscovered his humanity and become a better leader. She had discovered her own capabilities and found a path to financial security for Emma. But the most significant change was in the culture of Williams Development Corporation itself. The company had become known for its employee-first policies, its promotion of workers from within, and its commitment to treating everyone with dignity regardless of their role. Other businesses began studying their model, trying to understand how prioritizing character over credentials had actually improved their bottom line. Marcus often spoke at business conferences about his experience, sharing the story of how working as a janitor had made him a better CEO. He never mentioned Sarah by name, respecting her privacy, but always emphasized that the most profound business insights often come from the people who are closest to the actual work being done. Sarah's story became an inspiration within the company as well. Her rise from night janitor to facilities manager proved to other employees that merit and character were truly valued over formal education and connections. Several other janitors and maintenance workers were promoted to supervisory roles, creating a culture where everyone felt they had opportunities for advancement. Emma thrived in this new chapter of their lives. With financial security assured, she was able to focus on her studies and participate in activities that had previously been too expensive. But Sarah was careful to teach her daughter that their improved circumstances came with responsibilities. To help others, to work hard, and to treat everyone with respect regardless of their station in life. The supply closet, where Sarah first comforted, Marcus was eventually converted into a small break room for the night staff, complete with comfortable chairs, a coffee machine, and a bulletin board, where employees could share job opportunities and commendations for exceptional work. A small plaque by the door read, "Sometimes the most important conversations happen in the most unexpected places." 3 years after that transformative night, Sarah stood in the lobby of Meridian Corporate Tower, watching new employees arrive for orientation. Among them was a young single mother, nervous about her first day as a night janitor, clutching her work supplies with the same uncertainty Sarah remembered feeling years earlier. Sarah approached the woman with a warm smile. "First day?" The woman nodded anxiously. "I'm Maria Santos. I'm supposed to report to the night supervisor." "I'm Sarah Martinez, facilities manager. Welcome to Williams Development. You're going to do great here." As Sarah guided Maria through the building, explaining policies and procedures, she thought about the chain of kindness that had led to this moment. Marcus's vulnerability had taught her about compassion. Her compassion had revealed her character. Her character had earned his trust. His trust had transformed her life, and now she was in a position to extend that same opportunity to others. The story that began with tears in a supply closet had become something much larger, a testament to the power of human kindness, the importance of seeing beyond surface appearances, and the transformative potential that exists in every act of genuine compassion. Sometimes the person mopping floors beside you might own the building. Sometimes the broken stranger you comfort might change your life forever. And sometimes the smallest gesture of kindness creates ripples that extend far beyond anything you could have imagined. In a world that often values credentials over character and profit over people, Sarah Martinez and Marcus Williams had proven that businesses built on genuine human dignity don't just succeed, they transform everyone they touch. Their story continues to inspire employees throughout Williams Development Corporation, reminding them that every person matters, every act of kindness counts, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply see another person's humanity and respond with your own.